Hey everyone, and welcome to a new episode of my tutorial park. In today's episode I will show you how to build a Himalaya or a Music Express ride, as they're also called. Now before I start building anything, let me first show you a few examples of these rides in some of my parks. Okay, here you can see the version of this ride in white water park, but beautiful. As you can see, it's a ride that uses side friction coaster cars, and they're moving along this undulated track. I also put this Enterprise here in the middle, just as decoration. But usually you'll see some form of covered decoration here in the middle of the ride, on real versions at least. Now I gave this ride a really boxy exterior with a flat roof. But for the tutorial, we'll probably make a roof that looks a little bit more circular. But yeah, you can really make the roof however you like. You see them in all kinds of shapes for these kind of rides. Okay, and here's the version of the ride that I built in Imagination Mega Park. Once again, it's a very similar layout. Actually, it's exactly the same. What I usually do for these rides is that I give them 3 cycles. So first the vehicles go forwards at the normal speed, then they go reverse at the same speed, so you can see it reversing, and finally for the last stretch of the ride it goes forwards at an increased speed. So you don't have to do this, it will make the shoestring a lot simpler, but I do think it looks nice. It looks nice when you actually do it. Alright, let's first name a few more handymen after people who commented on the last video. Alright, here you can see the new additions to the Handyman squad. Now if you also want to become a handyman in my park, just leave a fun or interesting comment on this video, and you may get picked out in the next one. Alright, now we're gonna start off by building the above ground track. For that I'm going to use a wooden roller coaster track, and I'm going to just start over here, and we're gonna start with a slope upwards. So I'm going to raise the track slightly off the ground, and we're gonna make a curve upwards, and we're gonna go horizontal again, and then we're gonna curve downwards, go horizontal again, gonna go upwards again with a small curve, I'm gonna go horizontal again, and then downwards again, and we're gonna curve to the right again, and here we're gonna go horizontal again. Alright, that's going to be our above ground track. Now you can also make a more compact version of this ride. So for that I will just quickly show you how to build it. I'm not going to do a full tutorial with it, but yeah, if you have a little less space, or if you want the ride to be smaller, this one currently takes 6x6 tiles. The version that I show you now takes 5x5 tiles, so it's a little bit more compact. So instead of going downwards here, we just make a turn to the right, which is flat, and then here we're gonna go downwards again, and here we'll have another flat turn. Yeah, this is also a possibility to build this ride, if that's what you prefer. Alright, now it's time to build the track on which the vehicles will spawn. Now I always like to just use steel wild mouse for that, since we can use that to make these tight turns, which always makes these kind of things a little bit more easy to do. So I'm going to build a station over here. I think I'm just going to use 2 station pieces. Let's build them over here. And here on the back of the station I'm just going to add a lot of straight track pieces. I prefer using straight track pieces, because that will make all the vehicles space out evenly. You could space them out yourself later, but this is much more convenient to do. Alright, make sure it's nice and long. It should be about the same length as this circular track. And then over here we're going to merge it with this track. So I'm just going to build upwards here, and we're gonna try and merge it over here. You could also merge it over here, for example. Actually, let's just go over here, then we don't have to make any slopes. Alright, over here I'm going to build some straight track, and here I'm going to make a slope upwards, so we use the same track piece as this wooden coaster track. So that's horizontal to sloped. and then you can see we have merged these tracks. Now we want to make sure that when the vehicle arrives on this track piece, it actually moves to the wooden coaster track. And also when the train is on the wooden coaster track and it goes backwards, we don't want it to go back on the Wild Mouse coaster track. So I'm gonna open the tile inspector, I'm gonna hold Control, select this wooden coaster track piece, and we have to make sure that it's below the steel Wild Mouse track piece, and that seems to be the case. Okay, in order to actually use this ride in shuttle mode later, which is necessary to let these vehicles move back and forth, the ride actually requires a second station. Now, the nice thing about this is that the second station doesn't actually have to be reachable by the train. So over here, I'm just going to make a second station platform, and I'm gonna remove the track leading to it. So now we have a second station, which is the requirement for shuttle mode, but we're not actually going to use it. Alright, now it's time to build the underground track. So for that, I'm just going to remove this curve over here. And I'm going to make sure that clearance checks are disabled. I will also just hide the supports here to make things a little bit more visible. And here I'm just going to build steeply underground. Now I'm just going to hide the floor by pressing H to make things more visible. And I'm just going to build downwards a bit. You don't have to go downwards this much, but I have the space in this park, so I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to build here until I'm right next to the station. You can see here, this is where I'm building, and the station is one tile away from that. And when we're next to the station, I'm going to build a straight track piece, like so. Alright, now it's time to build the control track. Let's first enable the cutaway view, which you can find in this menu here. And with this you can set the cutoff height. I'm just gonna set it to over here, so we don't see anything else but this track. And then we're gonna build a new ride. I like to use the wooden Wild Mouse for that, but you can use any ride. I just like this one because it has these tight turns. And I'm gonna enable height markers by pressing 9. I'm gonna hover over this track piece, hold Control, and then we build at the same height. And I'm going to build the station right over here next to it. Okay, and then we're gonna build a 180-degree turn, and we're gonna build some more straight track pieces. And then I'm gonna go into the tile inspector, hold Control, click on this wooden Wild Mouse track piece, and we're gonna make sure that it's below the steel Wild Mouse. If you don't do this, when the train arrives here, it will just fall off the track. So by moving the wooden Wild Mouse lower, the tracks will merge and the train will move to the wooden Wild Mouse coaster track. Alright, if you just want your train to move forward in the track, you can just make a big long loop of track and then return back to the station, and you're done with the control track. If you want the vehicle to actually reverse in the track and move faster in the last cycle, we'll have to do something a little bit more complicated. Anyway, first off, I'm just going to make the track here loop back and forth a few times. Now, the longer you make this track, the longer the train above ground will move forwards. Now, for the tutorial's sake, I'm not going to make it too long. So I will remove a few straight track pieces here, and I want to change to a different ride type. So in Cheats, I'm going to enable allow arbitrary ride type changes. Okay, I'm going to change the track to a ride type that has brakes and S-bends. So for that I like to use steeplechase. We can use other track types as well. And here we're just going to place a few brakes. Let's do 6 kilometers per hour. Okay, that should be enough. And then two track pieces before the end, I'm going to delete the track. And here we're going to build an S-bend. And it's going to be built in the reverse direction. And here where I removed the brake piece, I'm going to rebuild it. Okay, it's going to build a straight piece here, and I'm going to change back to the wooden Wild Mouse coaster. Alright, now we're building backwards, and I'm just going to make a few more of these back and forth sections of track. Alright, here once again I'm going to add some brakes. So I'll change back to the steeplechase. And here we'll add some brakes. And two track pieces before the end. I'm going to remove this track piece. And we're going to build an S-bend. And here I'm going to repair the track again. Now for these two S-bends we'll have to make sure that when the train arrives at this section it follows the S-bend. It doesn't go back to the straight track. So I'm just going to hold Control and select this track piece of the S-bend. You can see it has a little curve in it, so we know that we have selected the right one. And we'll just have to make sure that this one is below the straight track piece. This is the straight one. This is the curved one. Now it's at the bottom, so it will follow the correct track. And over here we'll do the same. So the S-bend is at the bottom, so it will follow the S-bend. Now, and over here, I'm going to enable the cheat to allow chain lifts on all track pieces. And then we're going to do a few more loops back and forth and then return back to the station. This will be the section of the ride where the train travels fast. Alright, this station does not require an entrance or an exit, so we should be done now with the control track. Alright, the next thing we'll want to do is to actually spawn the trains. So for that, let's select the steel wild mouse ride. Now I will need to use the side friction coaster cars since they look nicest. So in cheats we'll select show vehicles from other track types and disable vehicle limits. And we'll also have to change the operating mode. So I'm going to select show all operating modes and unlock operating limits. Okay, over here we're gonna select the wooden side friction cars and we're gonna make it one car or one train, and it will have 28 cars per train. For the operating mode we'll select shuttle mode and the lift hill change speed. I'm gonna set it to 27, but we can tweak it later. This will be the speed that the vehicles use on the final stretch of the ride. Okay, now that it is done, we'll have to make sure that this station actually has entrance and an exit. So let's select the plain entrance style. So yeah, I will just remove them quickly. So over here we'll definitely want to have an entrance and an exit on this station. And for the second station, probably best to just have an exit. We don't actually use this station, but we do need an entrance or an exit on this station anyway, or else the ride won't work. Alright, now that we have our train here, I'm going to test and immediately close the ride. You can see the train has spawned, and it looks like the track behind our station is long enough to spawn the entire train, so that's a good thing. If it's not long enough, you'll just have to increase the length. Now, one thing we should do before we move this train to the control track is we'll have to change the first vehicle to a powered vehicle. And that will allow the vehicle to move on its own power through the track. So we'll go into the right vehicle editor, we'll select the first vehicle and we'll change it into a powered mine train. Alright, and this should pull the train through the track. Alright, I'm now going to test the ride, and when the first two vehicles have passed onto this sloped track downwards, I will pause the game and I'll switch the order of these two track pieces. So the rest of the train should then follow the other track onto the wooden coaster track, which is now invisible. So I'm gonna test it. Alright, you can see this vehicle has now started to point its nose downwards a bit, so then you know it's on the slope track. I'm going to select this curve and I'm going to move it below the other track piece. And now the rest of the train should follow the other track. Alright, all these trains are now on this top track, and below ground these trains will do their thing. You can see it brakes now to a nice and low speed, and now it goes backwards, and now it should start speeding up again. As you can see, these vehicles now move backwards here through the track. These vehicles will pick up some speed here. And then as soon as it arrives over here on this section, then it should hit the brakes again. You can see it starts slowing down again. And now for this final stretch, once it hits this track piece where the chain lift is, it should start speeding up significantly. And here's where the chain lift track pieces do their thing. Now we could make the wooden coaster track visible again. And this is what it will look like above ground. Now it does look like I need to put some brake pieces right before the station. That's something I forgot, because now it stopped really suddenly. But when that's done, I think yeah, the track of the ride is complete. So I will quickly add these brake pieces here. Okay, it doesn't look like the ride actually calculates its stats, so when that happens, it may help to switch the order of the curve and the track piece leading downwards again. So I'm just going to switch them around, and then I'm going to close the ride and put it in test mode again. And then it should calculate its stats. And then there we go. Okay, now that the ride is working, we'll need to make sure that guests can actually access the ride. Now, first thing I'm going to do is take the steel wound mouse, and I want the track to be invisible. So I will just turn it into a lift, which will change the stats once again, but we can fix them later if we want to. So if you don't like a ride stats, just go into the ride vehicle editor, select your ride over here, and then here under edit ride, you can freeze the rating calculation, and then you can change the stats to whatever you like. Alright, I will now quickly make a queue for this ride. It can be pretty long since the capacity for this ride is huge. Now for the other exit, I'm also just going to add a path piece to it. I'm not going to actually connect it to the path here, but if you don't do it, you will get lots of annoying messages saying that an exit is not connected. Now I actually want to add some decoration here, and the path won't look very nice here, so I'm just going to change it to an invisible path. Okay, we could now open the ride. There's one last thing that I want to do in the ride vehicle editor. I don't actually want any guests to ride the underground vehicles. So for the vehicle 1 and 2, I'm just going to set the number of seats to 0. And for vehicle 2, I'm also going to set it to 0. Alright, and now we can open the ride. Okay, all that's left to do now is to make the ride look pretty. Now first I'm just going to make the entrance and exit invisible. And something which I like to add in the middle of the ride here is Enterprise. So let's quickly do that. And basically this is not going to be actually a functioning Enterprise, but it will just look a little bit more like the decoration that you will usually find in the middle of one of these rides. I'm going to make the platform invisible, and I will replace it just with some base blocks later. Alright, for the decoration of this ride, I'm just going to try and add a nice circular roof above the ride. And yeah, I'm just going to try and make it look pretty. Alright, we now have a nicely decorated Himalaya or Music Express ride. It can be quite tricky to find a roof design that works, but you can basically do anything. These rides come with roofs and structures in all kinds of shapes. So yeah, I just recommend you to go wild. Now you will often find lots of little lamps on these rides. So I made these running rides actually with these sandstone skyscraper walkways from the futuristic set. And when you just put some glass in front, you can get them in any nice color you want. Alright, we've reached the point in the video where I'm going to add another one of my patrons to the park as an entertainer. I think on top of the roof here is a nice spot. Alright, we now have a dancing panda right on top of the roof here, and this panda will be named Paul, after my patron Paul. Thank you so much, Paul, for supporting me on Patreon. The support is really appreciated, and I hope you enjoy your spot here on top of the new Music Express ride. And if you're watching this video and you would also like to support my channel, you can find a link to my Patreon channel in the video description. You'll get a cool spot in the park, and your support is truly appreciated. Alright, that concludes my tutorial on how to make one of these Himalaya or Music Express rides. What I like most about these rides is their program, where they move forwards, backwards and forwards again. And they also have a huge capacity, and they can look really nice in your park if you decorate them nicely. Now, making a nice looking station for it can be a little bit finicky, but if you figure out a way, this ride will look nice in any park. And also feel free to experiment with the shape of the track itself. This is definitely not the only layout you can build for a ride like this. Alright, that's going to be the end of this tutorial. If this tutorial is useful for you, or if you just liked the video, please give the video a like. It would really help out my channel. And I would love to hear in the comments what you think of this video. And if you leave a comment, you may also become a handyman in the next episode. Alright, that's going to be the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.